Hello there and welcome back to Satisfactory, yes. And welcome back to the good old train tutorial as well. We're on good old part 3 of this little adventure, probably going to be the last one because today's merely... It's not really a tutorial per se, well none of them are, but this one's especially not. This one's more of just a kind of subjective, I guess you could say, a type of help. Yes, we are going to be showing you how to do some of the tips and tricks and stuff I have learned over building tracks and trains and stuff like that. Kind of real world scenario type of stuff, you know. Instead of building like this where it's just all on a grid, it's all flat, it's all nice, easy to work with, that type of stuff, we're going to be doing something a little bit more difficult when it comes to setting up rails and stuff like that. We're not really going to show you how to do all the tutorial or all the stuff that has to do with trains themselves, how they operate, how to set them up, that kind of stuff. We're going to be showing you something that's I guess a little more kind of on the building side of things when you're building the tracks out in this world and stuff like that. You know, stuff that's a little more on land per se. You know, like that guy skidding up that little hill. And stuff that's a little more on land, a little more working with the land and stuff like that. Of course, you can always build yourself a sky bridge if you would like, that goes across the entire map, that perfectly level and straight. You can absolutely do that. It's all how you perceive how you want your trains to look. But for those of us who have built trains in Satisfactory, we all know how difficult it is to be able to pull something like this off, to be able to work with the land, to be able to set up the rails and stuff like that. That really, you know, not really necessarily what you would see in real life, because real life we don't have this type of technology yet. We have some monorail technology, of course, but it's nowhere near as advanced as this game, of course. This game is like very far into the future type of stuff, so rails can essentially support themselves. You know, you don't need to set them on a ground or whatnot, but you can absolutely make your rails look a little more realistic than just setting them on a sky bridge, sending them across the map, and then, you know, doing stuff that way. So that's kind of what I'm going to show you, kind of showing you today, and what we're going to be attempting to do. It's not going to be perfect, of course, but just going to show you some tips and tricks on how to build a little more. I want to say a little more realistically, but you know, my version of what looks realistic and your version of what looks realistic is going to be a little bit different, I'm pretty sure. And we're going to have a difference of opinion on what looks good and what feels good, and just, you know, just the overall sense of that kind of stuff. So we're going to building, like I said, we're going to be building some rails through some more difficult areas, maybe, you know, obviously going to be changing in elevation and stuff like that, going through just essentially different areas. And I did show this off in season 3 quite a bit, but I've been building even more rails since then. And it has been a blast over on a good friend of mine's dedicated server. We have been working on that, and I've definitely kind of taught myself some new tips and tricks of recent, and I've since then been getting even better at doing rails. So we're gonna see what I can do here. I think we're gonna start over here in the desert side of the map, so should be quite fun. We're going to be building a rail kind of not necessarily through the... I'm not going to do through the desert canyon because I'm working on that right now, and I'd rather not doubly work on it, if you can say so. But I would definitely am going to show you how to kind of set up rails when you've got changing in elevation and going from one spot to another, you know, that type of stuff, with trying to build as smooth as possible over here. So and whatnot, and we're going to compare them with some of the mistakes and stuff. I would call them mistakes. You guys might not call them mistakes. I'm not calling them mistakes just to, you know, to crap all over you guys and how you build. This is just what I consider myself to be mistakes that I had made anyway. So, should be fun. Let's go ahead and get on into it now that I've wasted enough of your time. Okay, and here we are off in our desert land over here. So let's get started, shall we? So we're going to be doing a little bit of a real world example, but the trains are not going to really haul anything. I'm not going to spend time setting all that up, but I will definitely spend some time setting up some rails and stuff like that. And I think a good place to start is definitely over here at this cult, because this area can be a little bit difficult to work with too. Like I said, I'm not going to go through the desert canyon because I've been spending so many hours on that dedicated server going through the desert canyon already, and I still don't have a clear path through it. Maybe one day we'll make a part 4 and show you how to go through that kind of rough terrain. We could build a little bit in there at some point in the future, but right now I'm already working on doing that, and I'd rather not do it twice. Hopefully you can catch my meaning here. But yeah, let's go ahead and get started, shall we? So let's get started with a good old train station. I don't know, maybe right level with that type of deal, so we can pull up this coal here. Of course, I'm not going to hook it up, but that's an example of me and what I would probably do here. We'll put it just about right inside of that cave. Maybe we'll lower it down so that we have a little bit more of a challenge getting up and over this area here. Okay, so there's kind of your box standard-ish, I guess, train station, right? I'm going to add a little bit extra to this, now that I thought about it. Yeah, we'll just add a bit to that. That'll work. And then this will be like our return rail. So, because doing a single train line is, in my opinion, easy-ish. It's difficult to pull a train line through certain areas, but it's even more difficult. Oops, that's probably not going to work. It's even more difficult to pull it through. Twice, because some areas can get quite narrow. So we've got 1, 2, 3 to our standard corner right here. Very nice. Yep, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then it's going to end up over here. Oops. There we go. I'm also going to show you how to make some bridges and stuff with blueprints. That should be quite fun. So expect this tutorial to be a little bit longer. This tutorial, not tutorial. I keep calling it a tutorial. It's not. I swear. I swear, officer. It's not. Yeah, we'll just pull this rail. All the way this way. That'll work. Okay, and we're going to set up a functioning rail system, so don't worry. So, you're probably wondering, what do you do with this little bit here? So this will be kind of a segue into the next little bit here. So this is what I'm just going to kind of show you what I would do normally, and then kind of encourage you to kind of pull off some of your own stuff, and maybe you can come up with something awesome too. That there's a couple little things that you can do with the rails up underneath them, right? So this kind of be, like I said, the little segue into what we're going to be doing next. So there's a couple different little things that you can do with these rails. Some really cool trick is you can snap stuff to the bottom of them, which is really awesome. I don't know everything you can snap to the bottom because I haven't tried every single block in the game, but we can try some stuff here. So beam support, nope, can't do beam support. What about these? Nope, can't do those. Can't do those. Can't do those. I'm assuming the other beam, no. But you can snap these things, these pillars. You can snap these pillars, and even these, and you see how it guides along the track there? This allows you to place supports for your tracks, which is really awesome. Really awesome to do it that way. Always elevate your train lines. I was just going to say trail lines. Always elevate your train lines. Just even if it's just a little bit off the ground, or maybe it's just about to touch, try not to run them along the ground, because you're going to run up in situations where the ground comes through, the grass comes through, or the the sand in this case comes through the tracks and stuff like that. Now here you could excuse it because you could say, well, the sandstorm blew sand and covered the tracks a little bit. You know, you could definitely make that argument. But in the grass, when grass is poking through your train, you know that's not exactly a good excuse. At least not from my standpoint, anyway. So there's a couple different things you can do. Like I said, you can do these small supports, which look really good. So what you do is you put them to zoop, and then you put it where you want it. It's kind of freehand at this point, and then you can pull it down. So you could do stuff like this. You know, kind of separate them maybe a little bit. You know, stuff like that. Yeah, looks fairly good. Something else you can do too, which is looks really, really nice, especially on curves and especially elevation pieces. Looks really good, is to do these big concrete pillars, which just about match the track. And if you take these, and it don't matter if it's the metal one or the concrete one, that they did both the same, but then you drag it over to where you can't see the gap on the outside of the curve. You see how if I go onto the inside of the curve here and I touch these together, just where they're touching, you're going to notice there's a big old gap. Well, because it's a corner. Duh. You know, right? But let's go ahead and go into this. So if I pull these together on the inside of the curve, the gap is less so. It's very much less so, but it's still there. So what I do is I go on the outside of the corner, and I want them to touch because I want this to be a solid wall. So then I could do stuff like this. And it makes it look like your track is on a foundation, sort of, is on a foundation. And we can do that too. That's not a big deal. And if there's a little bump in this, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I've done this a few different times. This is a really cool way to build. As you can see there, it makes it look like it's on a curved track piece. And you could do crazy stuff with this as well. You could put foundations on these, for example. Let's go ahead and get rid of these bottom rail here, those bottom pieces. So what I could do is I can run this. Let's put that on default. And you can use rails to make curved foundations. And it's not the only way to make curved foundations, and there definitely is better ways, but this is a way that you can make curved foundations. Because this is centering off a center point on your track. The only I guess the only error that you would have doing this is your own hand, essentially, or your own eyeball, I guess. And you could do stuff like this too, which looks really good. You can do all kinds of cool stuff with this, as far as games go. But that's another type you can do. The other type that I'm I'd say I'm famous for. I'm not famous at all. What am I talking about? But the other type that I love doing is I love doing this. You see these little lines here that are underneath these tracks? If I line that up with the center of this, and I just go along with these, and normally these are for the bottom of the beams, but I can use these for the top of the beams because there's two different beam sizes, essentially. Is I can do this. And this will come into play later on, as I explain things, but this is the one I love doing. I love doing this a lot. And then essentially to me what this looks like, especially when you're doing elevation, is it makes this look like it's kind of on a spring. I don't know, maybe not a spring, but like shock dampeners or whatever. You just kind of load dampeners, I guess you could say. Load dampeners on the rail, because the rail does look kind of flimsy. Like it looks structurally sound, but when you kind of hover it up in the air, it kind of looks a little flimsy, like it wouldn't be able to support the train. But you can do that, and you can complicate this even more if you like. You could definitely do more of these. Definitely, and do it like that. The other thing I like to do is I will take this frame pillar, and I will run this like this along here in conjunction with these. Now, of course, I could spend time lining it up and stuff, but who really cares, right? Just as long as it looks good. I've done this before, though. And I've this is one of my newer tricks. I actually didn't show this off in Season 3, so this is one of my newer ones I've been doing. And it makes everything look really good as well. So yeah, just a cool little trick in there. And if you don't look too close at it, of course, it actually looks like the rail is supported by a decent set of supports and stuff like that. It doesn't look the greatest, but I could definitely spend more time and do it better. But I'm kind of on a schedule, of course. Making a video and all that does kind of make your schedule a little bit tight. Okay, so that's really, really cool for that portion. So we need to get across this desert with this rail somehow. There's a couple different ways we could do it, of course. One of the main ways to do this or one of the easiest ways to do this is to grab a rail, and let's say we'll put it there-ish, and we're doing a double rail, so we're going to put this. Let me do this actually. This is too far. What am I doing? That's going to be too far for the other rail. Let's take the long rail. And the long rail needs to go up this way. And then maybe it needs to go this way. But the damn arch. This kind of stuff. Don't worry, I've been here before trying to figure this stuff out. Okay. And then I need to bring these together somehow. Just gonna run these down like that, I guess. I am trying my effort, by the way. I'm not just doing this for the heck of it, oh, look how hard this is. No, this is actually pretty darn difficult, especially when it comes to elevation changes and stuff like that. The way the rails act does not give ease to this, but I've done it before. It can be done. That track does go through that rail pretty hard. But let's start from a better elevation. So let's not be so stupid. Let's take the sand dunes, I don't know, at the top. I've done this before too. It's okay. Where does it not clip? It doesn't clip there. That looks good. Just trying to stay on the top of the dune. Maybe there we go. That'll definitely help. Right about that'll work. Just so it isn't clipping into the sand, essentially. It's actually looking not too bad. Yeah, see, and now we've got one of the very first type of rails that I ever built was what I called the dune rider. So I had this train here, and I was just like, oh, yeah. And you never know how your rails truly look until you ride the train on them. You see how the train's reacting to all the corners, all the different elevation changes. As you can see, the train's bumping around quite a bit. Let's go backwards the other way. It's bumping around quite a bit. There's quite a bit of just craziness with this. And of course, if you like crazy and you don't really care, this is just perfect for you. But yeah, like I said, you'll never understand how your rails truly look or how your rails truly are until you ride the train on them. Because you can see the way the train reacts to all the bumps and stuff like that, how it curves, how the suspension. I wouldn't call it suspension. It's more of a. It is a type of suspension, but it's not a very good one. It pivots essentially. It's just on a teeter-totter type of stuff. So you're probably sitting there going, well, what would you do in this situation? What would you do? I'd be like, okay, well, let's go through what I would do. I'd go, okay, well, I need to go. Let's see. The easiest path through this would probably be. I see there's a node there. So maybe right there. Well, I don't want to go too far. So let's say we're going to aim for there. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to go, okay, there's my aiming point. And of course, at this ability, you're not going to be flying, of course, and stuff like that. So it's going to be a little harder, but for the sake of doing this video. And then I'm going to pull my rail, then I'm going to go, and I'm going to do, nope, we can't do that because that goes through the ground. Yeah, that's just not going to work. It's not going to work for me. Also, the elevation's a little bit steep, so I'm going to go down just a wee bit. I might even do this. Pull this over here. That's how you can keep the same elevation, by the way, in certain areas. Okay, that's about 2 meters too high. Or roughly 2 meters. So I'm going to do a 2 meter instead of a 4 meter. And then I pull this through. And that's roughly... It's roughly a meter too short, to be honest, but it's not. It's like 3/4 of a meter. We'll go for the lower point. Call it good. Now, if I pull my rail over there, I should be able to do that. Okay. So then I go, all right, so I've got, this is where I want to, definitely where I want to aim for, even though it's a bit low, but that's how you deal within the desert. So many elevation changes. So I'm going to, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down what I call bracer rails. So I've got 2 foundations there, and we're going to pull 2 more foundations. This because the rule for tracks is the tracks can be no shorter than a foundation and a half. And that's a kind of a, I say kind of a rule because sometimes the game does not follow its own rule. Sometimes it won't let you put this here. It'll say track is too short, even though the piece next to it is just fine. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it to here. That's why I build out so many foundations so that I don't have to worry about that. And I'm going to go to here, roughly in the middle. It doesn't have to be in the middle. It'll be anywhere on this foundation, and it doesn't matter. And then I'm going to pull it to there. And I'm going to go, okay. That looks good, but obviously we have that elevation change in there. So we have that sand dune in the way. So what can I do to alleviate that sand dune? Well, I could either put up a piece here to try and bring it together, like say this, and then maybe I put like a foundation here, and then pull the rail up here, and then pull it back down, or and this would be the more practical sense, I should say, is to shorten up your rail, or move your rail where your starting point is, because your starting point and your ending point and the points in between can all be changed. Don't ever let yourself get caught up into, well, I can't change the starting point, I can't change the end point because of A or because of B. Don't ever get yourself into that. Everything is always malleable, I should say. So now when we pull our rail over here, that's looking a little bit better. It's a little too close, I should say. I wonder what this side looks like. I know that'll connect. Okay, that side looks great. Right there. Okay, so then what I'm going to have to do probably is I'm probably going to have to bring my rail a little bit further along. Okay, that still didn't work. So then maybe I'll pull it to there. And then to there. Okay, that's not going to work. Maybe I'll pull it from this side. And it looks like it wants to... Okay, we pull it further back then. It's a bit much. Maybe there. Like that might work. Ooh, that was close. I'm thinking half a foundation more and we should have it. Oop. So was it here? I put in my bracer rail here. Ooh, that's still a bit, not quite. I guess another half foundation will do. It's right there. This time I won't lose it, I promise. There we go. That don't look too bad. Yeah. We can even look at it from above. The curve is a little bit wide, but the only way I could shorten it is by bringing this rail closer, which we can do if we want to clean up that curve just a wee bit. We can bring that curve certainly closer. It's probably the closest I can get without it clipping. No, that's just still clipping. I'm bringing it a little bit closer. But not as close. There we go. I could attribute this to, like, sand, because the train never touches it. See? The train car actually does not touch it. So that's actually pretty darn nice. And if we look at our curve here, it looks way better. I could probably shorten it up just a wee bit more if we pull this up to here instead. I can take it or leave it. It's fine. I'm going to shorten up this corner too. I'm actually going to bring this back a bit. Let's bring it back just a wee bit, right about there. Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay. I think I'm going to go with that. So then, I'm going to look at that hill. We're going to run into that hill. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take a foundation. Let's go concrete here. And take a 1 meter foundation. One more. There. And I could leave this all on foundation, but most of the time, when I'm building rail, you'll see giant sections of rail that just have floating foundations underneath them. And I will go for a very long time before I think about putting in those actual supports. And the reason I do that is so that I don't have to spend time deleting a whole bunch of crap because I decided to change my rail direction. So if I built all of this, let's say over to that sand dune right there, and then all of a sudden, no, I want to go this way instead because this way looks better and works better for what I'm trying to do, then I got to sit here and spend like 20-30 minutes deleting everything and so on. So that is just my personal opinion. Like I said, you can build there is no really wrong way of building rails. You can build your rails as long as they work and you're happy with it. That's just fine. The other little trick with 1 meter hills is to do like a 1.5 meters for both of these. So I like to do, the reason I do this is because it's the shortest kind of lip. And like I said, I can leave this, and I'll show you kind of the difference here. We need to keep going up. Probably there. These are 1 meter hills. The train cannot climb steeper when you're putting on foundation. It cannot climb steeper than 2 meter. The reason I use 1 meter is because it's nice and gentle. Nice and gentle rise, but if you have to use a 2 meter, go for it. You don't have to use a 1 meter. But I will try to exhaust my options before I go to 2 meter. Because 2 meter just looks ugly to me. That was a little bit high. I kind of want to get it right about level with that sand dune over there. So I'm going to pull it. Okay, that was a little bit low, so we'll go 1 more foundation there. Then we'll pull it on through with these foundations, and everything looks good. Excuse me, sir. This is a Wendy's. Yeah, that looks pretty good. That's about the height I want. This is how I do it, by the way, because the change in elevation for the sand dunes gets quite difficult. So it's best to try and get just above the sand dunes. But of course, you could do it any other way as well. So you can do it the little bit more free-handed methods. Oh, before I move on to that, let's just show you what I do up here at the top. So let's say this is the way you want to do it. What I would recommend doing is I go to this half on the slope that you're trying to do, and then go the shortest distance you can, because that minimizes clipping into the actual track. So between the two rails, because this is the shortest piece, you can't get any shorter than this, so it's going to clip just a wee bit. But of course you can do it on this way too, and that will give you the same result. And if you do it anymore, this is what happens. So let's go half and half. See, we're starting to clip into the track, and obviously it gets deeper and deeper, because what the track is looking for is the smoothest slope and the smoothest turn from one connection to the next. Let me show you a little bit of a kind of a differentiation here, because there will be a difference. So let's say our slope is it starts here, just right here. Here's our 2 slope. Let's say we don't have this top portion, because that'll be a good example of it. But the end result is we want to end up here, right? So obviously connecting to this is going to give us the straightest path possible. But if we go from here to here, see how it kind of curves it a little bit? It's because it's taking the slope into consideration, so it kind of slopes it because it has a choice. So what it's going to do is it's going to go out a bit more smoothly and then kind of come down in and then get to my connection point as well. So really, really crazy stuff. The way this works, these whole rails and stuff. So yeah, that is one way to do it. You could certainly do that. You can also do a sky bridge if you like. But if you are going to do a massive bridge where you overdo most of the obstacles, I'd recommend putting supports on it just so it looks good. But again, it is up to you how you want to build. The other method that I was talking about is kind of what I call the freeform method. So go ahead and delete all this. So we're going to get to the same result starting from this point. Or try to get the same result starting from this point. Well, a similar one anyway. So we've got our 2 tracks here where they come together. Hey, that actually came together quite nice. Right there. So I'm going to start from this point here, so that all of our rails are on the same page. Delete all this. Okay. So again, I want to get over to that right there. So the freeform method that you can use as well is you can go out and say, okay, well, I want to let's take my track, and I want to end up roughly there. That's roughly where I want the track to end. This can look a little nicer too, depending on what you're trying to do or what you are doing, and it gives it a little bit more of a freeform. You notice I'm not squaring it up with the foundations. I'm just using it as a kind of an anchor point. We do have a slight bit of a slope there, but it's not too bad. And then we want to end up. Let's see. We don't want to end up in this sand dune. Just want to end up roughly there, but we might have to put a slope on it. Yeah, roughly there. This is why I say elevate the railways. Now that was not enough elevation. So I could do one of 2 things here. I could either move the foundations over, or I could give it a bit of a curve, I suppose. By doing this. So I'll do that roughly. And I actually want to raise it up anyway because we're going to be sloping. We're going to be sloping here, so let's do that. And let's go up. Go up to here. There we go. Now we're no longer clipping, and we're starting to get closer and closer to our slope here. Let's see how far we can go. Yeah, we go just about to the top of that sand dune. I probably want to angle it just a wee bit this way because I want to avoid that pit right there, probably. So we know we can roughly place it here. The reason I go to place the track first is just to see how far the track can extend. And then I can get a rough idea of where I want to go with it, and I know that it can end up there. I might put a 2 meter on. Well, maybe a 1. Do a 1 meter here. Oop. Foundations, we'll do a bit of a 1 meter just to get us. Nah, I think the 2 meter was better. And you notice too, like when I've built my rails in the past. Whoops. I've built my rails in the past. Sometimes I will do it like 2, 3, 4 times. I will build a section of rail because there's a certain look that I'm going for, and sometimes you just achieve that look just by doing. And there we go. So now we've achieved our goal. We're up and over this foundation. Obviously, we can continue this. The reason I use 4 meter blocks is because that does raise enough up off the ground that I can work with. So that's why I use the 4 meter typically. But if you're in an area where it's roughly flat, it doesn't have a whole lot of elevation change in it, constant elevation change like this does, then a 2 meter and maybe even a 1 meter would work, depending on how flat it is. But because it's so rough out here, as far as elevation and stuff like that goes, a 4 meter is one of the best you can do. I actually kind of want to end up where that rail is. I'm going to split the dune as well. We're going to go that way. Because of that, I'm actually going to raise it up. I actually want it to turn that way, so we're going to use the... I'm going to remove this. So we're going to use the brace track, or the brace track thing. Take my bracer track. And do it that way. Because this is where I want to end up, so then I can go. Okay. And it can have S curves in it, doesn't really matter. We're just trying to get through the desert, so all this can be smoothed out at some point too, as well. And there we go. We kind of roughly hit our goal, right there of how or where we're trying to go with this type of deal. So now we're going to see how rough it is, and I'll show you what I mean by the foundation change and stuff like that. This will get a little bit more intense. Well, maybe less intense than what we just had, but it's going to be more intense than what I'd normally work with. So we get on our train, and this will allow you to really get down to the track level as well. You can watch how the wheels interpret how they pivot and stuff like that. So there's not much rail to work with, but you could pass it off as a rail. Not bad. They pivot only slightly, but they do pivot. And you notice how there's a lot of up and down throughout that, as well as we go through it. There's a lot of up and down. I'm not really a big fan of that. I am not. You see where we kind of messed up here. So let's say we don't want this. At least me personally, I don't like this. You may think, oh, this looks okay. It's fine. But me personally, no. I'm like, I hate that. I hate this flat, slope, flat, slope, flat. That's what the freaking belts do, and you cannot change the belts. Well, you can, actually. I have done it before. It takes a little bit of trickery, but yeah, pretty annoying. when you have this kind of thing. Right here is just fine because it's only a very slight slope and you don't really notice it. But over here, it's quite... There is a way you can fix this, a very awesome way you can fix this, but it does take a little bit of doing. So let's get stuck in. Because this is the top of our hill and we're starting to slope back down, I'm not going to worry about this section. What I am going to do is I'm going to delete these two. I'm going to delete these two sections right here, because that's what that entire slope is what I'm trying to change. So what I'm going to do is, and this is where me building in a few different times comes into play, is where I go, okay, yeah, I got to build this. I'm probably going to end up building this a few different times because I need to see how the slopes react to it, because you know, I've been doing this quite a long time already, and I don't have it perfect. So so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to do that. And because I built this on a slope, the tracks were connected. They're no longer flat. They're now sloped. And as you can see, the slope already has improved quite a bit. There's still a slope down and then a slope kind of leveling out at the bottom, but that is way, way better than it currently, or than it just was a second ago. What I should do is I should leave the other examples, so that way you guys can truly see the examples between the two. Okay. see the difference? Just by putting in a 1 meter slope, I had changed that slope from that to that, and it looks beautiful already. Again, subjective episode. Okay, subjective. So that is quite nice. Don't like it, but this is actually quite an improvement over that. But yeah, that's still not gonna work for me. So what I'm looking at here is I'm looking at the distance between here, and noticing that just putting a 1 meter on top of what we have is not high enough. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna delete these again, and what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna build them back over here. This way we have a contrast between the two different slopes that we're building. Now I don't normally build the two contrast slopes. I'm just doing that for you guys, so that you can see the effects instantly. You know, in case your mind needs a little bit of refresher. So let's try. When I'm looking at this, I would say probably a 2 meter, but we can go through it one by one. So I'm going to put a 1 meter flat here, and then I'm going to put the 1 meter slope, because the 1 meter slope seems to fit pretty nicely. This is not a super steep edge, so I'm not going to worry about doing a 2 meter. Oh, perhaps I should, though. Perhaps I should worry about doing a 2 meter. Maybe a 2 meter will fit. So let's raise it up a meter, and let's see the difference. It's a little smoother. Definitely is smoother. Yeah, I think a 1 meter will definitely fit. As you can see the difference here. Let me put away my weapon there. There we go. So you can definitely see the difference between the two slopes here. See how this one's got more gradual grade, and this one that's closest to us has got more of a sloped grade. Like it levels the hill kind of levels out a little bit more around this area, and then kind of just expands down. But this right here, just this difference between here and here is different from this distance from here to here. So basically, by me raising this on a 1 meter is changing the distance between here and here, and making the height change from this one to this one match this one to this one more often, or more than what I currently just done, essentially. So then once again, we're going to delete this, and I'm going to delete this, and we're going to put the 1 meter on here for to show off the difference. And I said a 2 meter. I might have been wrong. It might be a 3 meter. We might be doing 3 meter. It is in my brain is roughly between a 2 and a 3 on the height that we needed extra. Oops. Let's go back down. So change that to there, and there to there. Okay, now you see how the slope is starting to become 1. It's still up on the top left or up on the top right here. You see that slope right there, how it starts out like it gets steep and then it starts to smooth out before it gets to the middle, and then it carries on the slope all the way down. You can see on this side, see how that's much more it's much more steep, and then it levels out. So it doesn't. So the slope is steeper here, then it hits here, and then it's smooth, and then it goes back to being what we'd like. But on this side, it does slope down still, but it's a little the hill. These two sides are now matching a lot better. So I guess sorry, I'm having a hard time explaining it. Okay, so then again, gonna delete this 1 meter here, put a 2 meter there, and I'm gonna put a 1 meter on top of this one, and then we'll do the 2 slopes. So that one there, and that might be the best we get. Sometimes you just can't, no matter how much you try, cannot get a bump out of a slope. Sometimes it's impossible because it's the amount of change is so different. Now that right there, I'm happy with that slope right there. That slope looks nice. Now we do have a little bit, now it's starting to show me that this right here is lower than that up there. And you can see there's still a bit of a steepness to it. You see when you get down to the track level, you can see, yeah, 1 meter wasn't exactly correct for that as well. So what I might go and do is put a 1 meter on top of this rather than a 2. And that might just help it. Like I said, don't get into the fact to where you can't change your beginning and end. You can only change the middle. Yeah, get out of that mindset. Sometimes I still fall into it, like I just did there. I was falling into it and I was trying to make it work the best it could. But now, if I get this, because I actually want that to face that way, so do a little bracer track again here. And now I'm changing my beginning to try and match the slope up again. So let's see how that looks now. That looks even better, but let's see what it looks like at track level. It pulled a little bit more out of it. It still needs to be another meter higher on this side before the slope perfectly matches. But I think we might have pulled it out. Especially because I want to change this over here. So I'm going to change this beginning portion. It's not quite doing what I want to do. That's not too bad. Okay. Now it slopes up a little bit steeper. Yeah, it still needs another meter on this on the center here. So I'm just going to remove that. And I've given up on this side. So it needs a 1 meter slope here. I think 2 meter would be too steep. Unless we were going lower, then it might work too, but I think this might be the best. And now that's too high. Yeah, that's way too high. Unless we change... Yeah, I'm thinking maybe a 2 meter would have been better. Sometimes I'm wrong about these things. What was it? That was a 4 meter, right? So 2 meter, and then a 2 meter slope. Let's see how that looks. It might be. I'm thinking that's too steep, but yeah, that's incredibly too steep. You can see that. It's more like a roller coaster now. Yeah, I think a 1 meter was the best. And it looks like, oops, it looks like it's between a 1 meter and a 1 meter here. Oops, forgot my thing. And you know what I might do as well, because I got this we got this S bend in here. We might move this over a little bit. Yeah, right about there probably. I might straighten this out. Let's do that. So basically I've just moved it over a little bit. Just see if I can get rid of that that S bend. Moved it 2 increments over. I know the S bend is caused by that other end, but there we go. That's a little better. That might smooth out our track too. There's still a little bit of a bump to it, but putting it 1 meter higher is too much. The slope is perfect here, but the slope up there is too high. And you can always check this as well. There's a little check you can run. Is take whatever your slope you're working with, and take your foundation right here, zoop it along your hill if you can, and you can see that in order to get it up there, it has to raise. So there's one or two things I can do to this. I can either lower it down another meter, get it back onto its original foundation where it was, but I can't exactly do that because if you remember, look at this. Look, this hill goes into it. So if I try to pull the track through there, I'm going to end up going into that sand, and I don't want to do that. So there's one other way I can do this as well, and this might just do it for us. Is I can connect this and then pull this instead of, because we are going to here, and as you can see, there's that slight hump in there. We can do is we can pull this a little bit further now, because if you remember, the foundations themselves don't matter, because you're always going to be removing them anyway. So if I pull this to here, now we look at our slope. That don't look too damn bad, nah. As you can see here, that really smoothed it out. I mean, it's still got a hump to it, but I think I can be happy with that. I think I can be happy and take solace in the fact that I tried my best. Now, of course, the further you go, obviously, the more it's going to smooth out. So if we pull it even further, that'll smooth it out even further, and that'll definitely there. That's pretty darn smooth. It's still got the tiny little bit of a hump in there, but yeah, very, very smooth, very nice. Now I might end up raising up the slope 1 more meter, and then adjusting it there from there, just because of the height difference. But yeah, I think that looks pretty darn good. So pull that to there, and of course our dual rail up to here, and then pull this up to here. I wanted to see if it'll hit the sand dune or not. Oh, it just doesn't. Like, it almost touches it. And that's a beautiful thing. Actually, yeah, it does touch it. It touches it ever so slightly, which I can be happy with, because the rail isn't being hit either. There's still a little bit of a, might be causing some of that illusion right there, as it might be that S-bend that we got going on. There's still a bit of an S-bend. I could probably straighten it out, and of course, and stuff like that too, but we'll just keep going. So that's pretty much what you can do with that, and then I'll show you the more realistic version, I guess you could say, of what I do for supports. So for the desert, what I have been using, which I think looks really good, I wish I could change the color of it to make it brown, to make it look like wood, but that's okay. We'll just deal with steel color. is I have been doing this. So for slopes, depending on the slope you have, this won't always work. These bigger ones right here. Actually, probably could show you an example of that. But yeah, if I put in my... we'll just put in our beams here, just real quick. As you can see, you really can't... If you look really close, they clip a little bit, but you can't really tell, right? But there's a difference in that, though. And if you try to use that on something, say, way more steep, like this, for instance. Let's try running supports for that. And this might even still be okay-ish. See how much more it's clipping? Depending on your slope is what you can use. That's why I like to use these things, because these things, no matter how steep the slope is, you're never going to see it. Because the mass of the track is over this way, and this is not going to clip in far enough for you to ever be able to see it poking out. That's why I like to use these soft. And so if you got steep slopes, use stuff like this, or use these. You can use these. You can use these if you like those. And you can use these, of course, too. So you can definitely use those 3 different types. If you got really steep slopes, you don't have to worry about them clipping through. And you still have supports for your track, so really nice. But if you're dealing with less steep slopes, like this, you use the bigger ones. And if you wanted to, you can even use these. I suppose. These are... I don't use these because these are monstrous. They do still clip through because of how big they are. They're crazily insane. You can definitely use that. But what I have been doing is I have been recently in the desert using these. And what I'll do is I'll zoop these like this. Just pull them right into the ground like that. And let me put up a bunch of these real quick. Can you see why I wanted to color them brown? You know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of wooden coasters, which I love. Wooden coasters, man. Wooden coasters are my favorite. But yeah, look at this. It makes it look like somewhat of a coaster, or like the old-fashioned way they used to do rails, which was cross beaming everything with 2x4s and stuff. So I could definitely look how good this looks. I mean, even from a distance. You know, it looks really good, and it makes the rail look like it's completely supported, just off of beams and stuff like that. So, and like I said, all of these methods you can do whatever you like, do whatever you wish. Does not matter. I just give you recommendations, and you can do whatever. But yeah, let's ride our slope for the first time now that we fixed it. Let's ride our slope and see what it feels like when it comes to the rails, of course. This is like driving a car. You know, you don't really know until you actually get in and drive. Oh, look at that. So smooth. There was a little hint of a bump in there. If you were watching the wheels, you could see that slight bump, and that was it. And you also notice that I removed the middle foundation. But you see how smooth, buttery smooth that was. Smooth. I like saying smooth. Smooth. Yeah, pretty freaking nice, man. I'm pretty happy with that. Makes me smile when it's nice and smooth. And of course, like I said, we can carry that down this way, and we can carry on through the desert if we wish, but there is other things that I would like to show you as well. There's quite a few there's a few other tips and tricks and stuff we can work with, but that was mainly it. That was mainly the main ones and stuff like that. The only thing you can't do with slopes, at least not very easily, is doing junctions. Junctions on slopes is very, very difficult to get down and stuff like that, because junctions and slopes, the rails are going to, when the rails come together, they're going to different slopes. Let me actually show you an example. So let's say I wanted to turn this into a junction. Getting this track where the tracks collide, Okay, bad example. Well, I guess not really a bad example, but yeah, you can see where the rails come together. There's quite a bit of a difference there, and it's really hard to get correct. I have done it before, and like I said, it is insane. And then if you're crossing multiple tracks, I'm just putting this up here as an example. Obviously, your example's not going to be as extreme as this. See if I can get it. See if I can get it to where it crosses. Actually, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that. Let's go a little further. Okay, that'll work. When you're doing intersections on tracks, this is what you're most likely going to end up with, and you could try your absolute best and you could say, "Oh, this is good enough. I don't mind this." But if you're crossing multiple tracks, trying to get that slope, because the slope is going to be, obviously, unless it's the exact same slope, and even then, it still won't always work. You're going to get this. This is why if you're going to do intersections, try to do them on a level playing field as possible. I like to put my intersections up on foundations so that I can get the intersection looking the way I want it to look, and then worry about hooking it up to other places. But definitely elevate your that stuff and elevate your tracks and stuff like that. I guess we will be showing you on a certain thing if you would like. Something that maybe your elevation change is a little more extreme than just as simple as what we were doing over there. We'll head over here because this is the best example that I can think of, the best place I can think of that'll definitely give the results to it as well. So let's say, actually, did I cover this on my first the first train tutorial I did? I actually think I did. I think I made one of these, and the very first one that I tried didn't have as much information, and of course I wasn't good as building rails as I was before. But let's say, I don't know, randomly, we'll just throw down, we'll throw down a couple of foundations here, like that. Just like that, and then go over transport. Like I said, this video is going to be a little bit longer because there's a lot to cover in this, but only for the benefit of doing some tips and tricks, not actually of how to build rails. Though that's what's covered in my first two parts if you want to go and watch them. But let's say your rail is coming from this way, obviously going off into the sunset, going off into the desert, just like that. Looks like sunset's coming soon anyway. But yeah, this rail needs to go from here, and it needs to get up on top of this cliff. Now, obviously, let's do foundation. Let's say we want to go that way with that. So roughly there-ish. Of course, we'll do that to the other side, because we're building a train station up here for this Caterium War, or whatever the reason might be. But the elevation change is way too strong for the trains. So just let me build that. So even if I was to build up to this edge and I try to build down, track is too long, track is too steep. Track is too long, track is too steep. It really doesn't matter where I go, just about, unless I go to maybe there. I did get a blue line a little bit there. That's about the only place I could put it where it was happy. Yeah, it's just not going to work. It's too extreme. So I'm like, okay, well, then your first, one of your first things is to put down like a 2-meter foundation, right? And it's like, okay, well, I'll put down a 2-meter foundation here, and then we'll run it all the way down. Well, just look how much you need. And this is a 2-meter as well. The trains can't do over a 2-meter. I'll show you, actually. I'll show you. You can put a 4 meter down all you like. Put some rail on it. See? Track is too steep. Can't do it on a 4 meter. 2 meter is about the steep, maybe 3 meter. Now the track can go steeper than 4 meter, but that's only in cases where you're connecting from one track to another, and you're not using any kind of foundation. And that could be advantageous sometimes, but it's very rare. But yeah, so that's not going to work. And I really don't want to have to do this, because this takes a lot of effort to put in a massive sort of structure just so I can get up that slope. And that's pretty darn steep as well. If a train ever stops before that slope or stops halfway up that slope for any reason, or it's definitely going to lose a lot of momentum, and trucks are going to have problems with that too if you try to do trucks and stuff. So it's just like, well, you can't do trucks, trains, drones maybe if you want. Yeah. So there is one other way that we can do this, and this is, I'm going to probably cut some of this out, but I'm going to show you. And this one is a spiral. Basically, it's a. I wish I had an image of it actually. Actually, I do have an image of it. Give me 1 second. All right, here's your image of it. It's not the one I wanted to show you, but it'll do the job. So here's an image of one of the ones that I have built in the past. Not my nicest one. I cannot find my big one. I had a really big spiral that was just insane. But this will do the job. So I'm going to show you how to build one of these. This is basically, it's in order to get your train from one elevation to another extremely quickly with taking up very little space. Well, I say very little space in the context of it's not going to take up as much as doing a 2 meter slope would, or a kind of a switchback if you wanted to do that style, or trying to find a way through it through the desert cliffs and stuff like that. This is just a much better image, and that is the one I built, by the way, in season 3, like very long time ago. That was the oil train line one. But anyway, so let's get to it, shall we? So to start off one of these, you need to try and figure out where your cliffs are, or any obstacles, basically, where there are, if they're going to be in the way. And we're going to start off with a thing. And I could put this on the grid. That'll probably be very nice. Get out of here. We'll just give him a little nip in the butt. So this might be a little bit close to our hill. And of course, we're not doing the single track like you just seen. We're doing a dual rail spiral, so that we can have an arterial line here that'll get us up to where we want to go, essentially. Kind of do that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do, this looks like a pretty good center. I'm pretty happy with that. So I'm going to do 1 on all corners, just like this. We'll just put default for now. And then from there, I'm going to change it to zoop. So that's the kind of the 1 meter. And then you have this one. And then you have one. Oh, that's a little bit too low. Let's raise it up by 2 meters. Yep, there we go. So that should get us over that. So then it's this one right here, which is a where I've been putting those half circles at. Then I go 1, 2, just like that, and that's where the track's at. And then I had another half circle there. So from here, we got our half circle. So then the 2 tracks, and then another half circle. Looks like we're going to need to go a little bit higher. So let's do that. Looks like this one's going to be during the nighttime. Freaking sand dunes anyway. So half circle, and then you got the 1, 2, and then 1. Okay, that's a little too close. So we're going to need to move it again. There you go. There's our center. And then we're probably going to need to go up even higher. It looks like... Yeah, it looks like we will. But we'll see. So then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So 5 from the center. Yeah, looks like we're going to need to go up 2 meter higher. Because this is going to be, like I said, a dual spiral, so we've got that. So then you've got your kind of X shape, essentially. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take that 4 meter, and I'm just going to... Now, you want to build a set of 4 meters because this matches the slope, so you want to build in 4 meter increments all the way to the top, so build it as high as you need, which is roughly... I think roughly there-ish, something like that, and whatnot. And of course for these, build these up in the center into kind of a plus shape. All the way around, all the way to the top. Oop. There we go, okay. So now we've got that closed off so we don't get confused. And then what I'm going to do here is, now here's where we decide whether we want to do clockwise or counterclockwise. Looks like we're going to go clockwise because of where our rail is at. I swear these things are attracted to train tracks and foundations maybe. So we're going to aim for this section here. So I'm actually going to draw out some foundations. There we go. So we have a nice straight shot. I'm going to delete all this and replace it. And of course we can delete all this too, because now I got the draw where I need it. I wonder if that'll reach over there. Hopefully. Get our rail back. Where is it? That's well, that that is related, I suppose. So yeah, and the reason you want to do this is because you guys remember the 3 corner, or the 3 foundation. The sharpest corner you can do on a foundation is 3 by 3. So if you actually count this out, because it's on a half, so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you go 1, 2, and then the half is the 3, and then 1, 2, 3. As you see, that's a perfect corner. Just like that. That's what I was talking about. This is why it has to be so big. It's because this is the smallest one you can do, just with a single. But if you're doing a dual rail, you have to do it this big. Now, you don't have to have this extra bit. You can leave this as kind of a spine stalk looking thing. Oh, I should also mention as well, completely forgot, but do not mistake that I came up with this method. I did not. I learned this from somebody else. But I've also done kind of my own spin on it, I suppose. I just learned how to do the single spiral, and then I was like, well, you got to be able to do a dual, and then we did a dual, and I've done quads, and I was insane. I did a quad rail spiral. Oh my gosh, that was pretty hard to do because it took up a lot of space. But you don't want to do just this because we're not changing elevation with this corner, obviously. So what we want to do is we want to change this to a 1 meter foundation, right? A raise. Obviously, you can go steeper than that, but the 1 meter is the best. Now, if we look at this, notice how it doesn't dip down. Of course, you can test this. It dips down a little, but it doesn't dip down very much as well. So, yeah, it dips down very, very little, and that's what you kind of want. And of course, right here, to me, it doesn't really matter. But yeah, you want to have a 1 meter foundation out on this stalk right here, as you can see there. Now, this is where the 4 meter comes into play. Why I said to do only 4 meter and don't do anything else. because the next one is going to be up this high. That's exactly one foundation higher than the next one. So then we grab this, we go out to here, build it, and just like that. There we go. Now you can see, now it is a little bit bumpy through here. There's no way you can really smooth this out because you're building within such a finite placement that you can't build it any shorter than this, really. And you can't smooth this out, so you just have to kind of deal with it, to be honest. You could do a 2 meter, but that's even worse. The 2 meter goes from sloping down then sloping back up, and it's just much worse. That's why it's like you could do a 2 meter if you want to if you want your spiral to go even even taller. So we can do that just real quick. I'll kind of show you. Let's do a 2 meter. Like this here. So there's our 2 meter. Now don't worry, don't pay attention to this. So then we try and do the 2 meter here. Just like this. You can see that, okay, that don't look quite right either. So then you're like, okay, well then I guess I gotta build one more up, because that's 2 times the height on the ramp, so 2 times the height getting to the next section. See what I mean? it's really not that great. So I think the 1 meter is the best, but we can continue until you guys are satisfied. Until we smooth it out, as you would say. Don't know why I'm holding that out. There you go. Getting there. I don't know if it's getting better or worse. This is why I've done testing on this, and it's just like, this is why 1 meter is the best for this. Now it's too steep. Is it too steep for the outside? No, for the outside. For the inside it is, though. As you can see, geez, that is a 4 meter slope if ever I saw one. That's what I mean by 4 meters can be. 4 meters can be done. It's just it's best not to. Okay, so we're gonna remove all this, and we're gonna go back to the 1 meter. The 1 meter just looks the best, I think. And then we're gonna pull our spiral all the way up to the top of this. All right, and in an effort to better myself, I did mess this up. I apologize. I did mess this up slightly. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. So where I messed up was this right here. I'm stupid. Your very first slope needs to be 1 foundation higher. My bad. And I like to show my mistakes, so I don't mind. I don't mind if it makes me look crappy. But I was just like, man, this right here. I was just like, man, that's way too close. What am I doing wrong? It's like, I know. I know I'm doing something wrong. Whoopsie. So yeah, that was my mistake. So yeah, your first slope is going to be 1 foundation higher than the next. And like I said, each arm that you hit is going to be 1 foundation taller than the previous one. There you go. That looks better. So like this, you can build this and then go, okay, my next one is here. And go to that one. My next one is here. And just keep going around and around and around. Just make sure, what I would do if you're building it on foot, essentially, not flying around like I am with cheats. I'm just doing that to make the video easier, I should say. And so I can show you much better stuff, but yeah, just like that. Very, very good. Okay, and we continue on. Oh, and what I wanted to say was, if you're on foot and you're building the rail like this, obviously you can build the rail, you have your rail up here, and what you can do is then place your foundations underneath here, and then put that foundation, do it across, put in your 1 meter slopes, and then drag your track up that way, and then connect it. And if you want to, you can even do this. Hop over to this foundation, and then maybe, I don't know, make a little slope or something, and then hop up. You know, however you want it, however you can do it, I suppose. Just so you can get it built. It's actually kind of easier to build from the top to the bottom, because then you can just jump down to the next leg after it's already built. So, yeah. But yeah, you can use the track to walk up and down on. Or if you're using the hover pack, you can use the hover pack to kind of hover up and down on it if the tracks are connected to power, of course. Okay, and now that we're kind of nearing the top here, let's go ahead and pull this through, pull that through. There we go. And I always like to, obviously you're going to be leveling out, but if you can level out relatively close to where you're trying to aim for, then that's what I call good enough. I'm just going to connect these tracks. I'm not going to worry about it. I might worry about it a little. That's a bit much. So something you'll notice when you're doing dual rails, I'll show you this too, is if it's an extreme curve between the two, you're going to notice that these rails start to come together a little bit sharper, especially when it's an S-bend. S-bends are one of the worst things you can do with a dual rail, so try to avoid S-bends. I say try to avoid extreme ones, I should say, because if I mean, I guess if you don't mind it, it shouldn't be a problem. But actually, I don't know. Are these close enough? Let's do a little test here. See if these tracks are close enough to cause a collision. I don't think they are, but we'll see. So that basically what I've done is I've created a block with my block signals. No, they are not close enough to cause a collision. Well, there you go. they might be almost there, but they're definitely not close. So what's going to happen there is, if two trains, train A and train B, are coming across each other at this point in the section where they're just close enough. This might not be a problem for you, but look, it's going to clip. Oh, they just touch, just barely. They're going to clip a little bit, and more obviously the more extreme the S-bend is, especially when changing elevation, the more extreme that's going to be. So yeah, that's just up to you. But yeah, how I fix a certain situation like this is just go, okay, well, I just got to move my I just got to move where they connect to, and that should fix my issue. Okay, that's still S-bending. And now the track is too long. Okay. So then, I'm going to move my connection point to over here. And I'm going to use the curve to say I'm going to put it here. That shouldn't be too bad. Let's see. Build the single rail first. And it's still S-bending a little bit. Might pull it to the edge of that foundation instead. Is what I mean. Like, sometimes I will rebuild a section of track like 20 times before I am happy with it. There you go. Now it's not S-bending. And this goes with the same with just regular curves too. Sometimes the curves can be so extreme that the tracks almost end up touching. They get very, very close to each other. It just depends on what you're trying to do, and depends on if you'll run into it quite often or not. So, Anyway, there we go. Now we're connected to both ends of our rails. Now you are going to notice that when you're looking at this thing, it's a little bit bumpy, I should say. Yeah, and of course, obviously, that one's for that side, that one's for that side. Doesn't matter. You could have them both go the same way if you want. It's all up to you. Yeah, now we've got ourselves a curve. And look, we just clear it as we go. See, it's a little bit bumpy. You can see the... What just happened? There's a bug. The update 8 has introduced some new bugs. With the tracks and stuff. Oh, hello there. New bug. That one has it too. That can happen, and the way you fix that is just by replacing the rails. I don't know how that happened, but it definitely did. Okay, let's see if we fixed it. I did have this happen in my my season 3 playthrough as well. There we go. That's better. Yeah, I was gonna say that looks like that one has it too. I don't know how that happens, to be honest. I don't know what they did with Update 8, but every now and again you'll run into this issue, and you especially run into that issue, especially so on dedicated servers. You really got to pay attention. And something else I've run into issues on dedicated servers is where you'll connect the rail, but then you'll run the train, and the train will just stop on a connected rail. It'll stop right where the two tracks come together, as if there's no track connected at all, even though it's clearly connected. It just happens. There we go. There you go. We accomplished our goal. So yeah, basically, when you get done, you should have something that kind of looks like this. And of course, we can decorate this any way we like, roughly. When you are decorating the tracks or this kind of stuff, what you do have to watch out for is clearance. So clearance between, here we go. This will be a good example. So clearance between obviously this leg and the train and stuff like that. If you don't want your camera constantly bouncing down and around because it's clipping or it's hitting into the foundations, because the camera no longer clips. It actually has the camera itself on the train has collision, which is annoying to me, but that's the way it goes. So what I usually do is we'll go into foundations. I'm only going to build one of these for you because it is time consuming, but this will give you an idea of an idea to do, and I really do love this idea. It looks good. Is put the quarter half pipe, or the quarter pipe, whatever. Apparently I was in zoop mode. I thought it would... Okay, so default, there we go. So put one of those there. Put one of those on that side. And then we go up here to the 4-meter half foundation. Now the half foundations are a little bit weird when it comes to this. So basically, to get this to work, you just you either place it on this, get it rotated correctly, but you're not going to be able to do that on the outside unless you put another foundation down. So you just move your mouse cursor over, and it kind of falls in line there. And it'll rotate automatically for you sometimes, and sometimes it won't. It just depends on how it feels that day. We could definitely do this, and then of course the upside down one. Place it like that, and place it like that. And look at that, and it gives a nice person. Now, of course, when you go and do the one underneath it, like that. And of course, you can middle click everything to sample it. It does give support for the next set, which does look rather nice if I do say so myself. And I do. It's always the joke, right? It's hard to see that one. There we go. Yeah, definitely make sure on that very first upslope, you definitely put it one foundation higher. Yep, that's in blueprint mode. There we go. Okay, so there you go. Fairly nice. Now you can't put this in a blueprinter unless you have mods or something like that to be able to place these down everywhere. But that is connected. And of course, for this very top, we go 1, 2, 3. So that was the perfect height, like that. And then it's like that. I know I said I would only build one, but too bad. I'm gonna build more. Half-meter foundation right there. Because I'm in soup mode, so I'm too lazy to change it. That's just how it goes sometimes. Okay. And what I'll do is I'll chop off this, and we'll do foundations 4 meter. You know, do that on the end. There we go. That don't look too bad. And of course, then you would just carry this on down. Stuff like that. And then sometimes what I'll do as well is I'll take a 4 meter. Let's go and zoom it into the sand, or vertical that into the sand. That's not lined up. Yeah, that's lined up. Because I'll just run this down the middle. That way it takes up more space. And don't worry, the train's not close enough to run into it or anything like that. You could also, if you like, could also maybe take one of these. This is not the greatest, but it can, I suppose it could work. Yeah, something like that. Or maybe you could combine the two. This might work here, actually. I don't know. We gotta give it a try to find out. I guess. Or on here, maybe you do this. No, you couldn't do it though. Yeah, you couldn't make the slope go all the way around unless it was the actual corner piece right in the snugness of it. Let's see, to make that work, you'd have to do this. You know what, let's do it on a level where we have... Oh no, that wouldn't work because, you know why? Because they're on different levels. You wouldn't be able to match that up. But yeah, you could do all kinds of interesting stuff with it. You just gotta get this main spine column thingy in here. And like I said, again, you probably heard this term before, or you've probably seen something like this before. I did not come up with the idea. I did learn from somebody on how to build one of these, so and they are very handy for changing elevation very quickly. But what I would recommend is if you can work with the land to change your elevation and stuff like that, and to make the rails look a little bit nicer, you can definitely do that. Try to work with the land as much as possible. Well, when you're out here in the desert, I can understand the frustration. I have built a bridge over the desert before. I actually built, in Season 3, we built a bridge over the swamp. Just because there was so much crap in the way that you can't get rid of. So it's best just to build over the top of it. But of course we built a bridge and stuff like that too. So yeah, and then the other thing that I built, I'm just going to show you rather quickly here. Let's change this to steel foundation. So I actually did this on the dedicated server, and it was recorded. So if you want to check that out, that was over on DDG's server. He's a streamer, so he has a nice, very awesome dedicated server. And I've been playing on that quite a bit recently, because I needed to be able to take up my time with something. Okay, so we'll go roughly that high-ish. Okay, and then I'll just kind of show you what I built here. Zoop, there we go. So I did this. Gonna get rid of that. Then I'll do 1. Then we'll do 10. So something roughly like that, I guess. I can't remember the exact number the tracks can travel, but I was making the tracks travel as long as they could. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10, and 11. I should have just used my thing. I think I miscounted that one. They can go pretty far though. Okay, so to this foundation here, we'll just cut out a hole. If it was concrete, I would have been able to paint it, but I wanted to do it with the steel. Yeah, just want to build a version of this just real quick like. Okay, and this is what I would call a sky bridge. So you've got your train tracks elevated above all the stuff, and you could just roll with that if you like. Of course, I'm not going to roll with that. That's not how I play, but yeah, if you want to, that's certainly one way to do it. The way I'm going to do it, though, is I'm going to go foundations, and we're going to put a 2-meter foundation down, of course, and then just run this along, all the way along each side, just like that. So yeah, just like that. So it's on its own foundation, its own platform. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a 4-meter all the way down at the underside. All the way down, of course. Okay, and then we've got that. And then I'm going to run a 2-meter down on both sides of these, just like this. Okay, so then we end up with something like this. Now, of course, I could lower this down to the sand to where the sand kind of comes in, stuff like that. But I'm intending it as a bridge, so that's what I'm going to build it as. And steel just fits well with the desert, in my opinion. Steel fits really well with the desert, so that's what we're kind of going for here. So then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take an upside down 2-meter, because it is a bridge. And we're kind of going for the sci-fi look, so this is what I'm going to do here. I'm going to run this all the way down on both sides as well. So there we go, just like that. Looks a little more sci-fi kind of something like that now, doesn't it? Okay, so then what I'm going to do is, now that I've done all that, I'm actually going to go in and delete some pieces. I'm actually intended to do this, so don't worry. And I'm going to put a 2-meter there, 2-meter there, and then 2-meter here, and 2-meter here. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold F on the track here. Now there's a very specific reason what I did what I did. So I did where I started the track, and then I did 10 foundations. So there's 10 foundations right there. And then you can see the track goes on to the next one. So then I can go to here. And there's actually a specific reason I did this as well. Put a 2-meter on both sides here. Now this one is not going to be as significant as some of the others, but yeah. And now you see why I didn't go really lower anyway, because the sand dunes, some of them are going to come up to this thing anyway. So yeah, something like that. Very, very nice. And then I'm going to go down to the next one and do the same thing to this one and the next one in there too. So yeah, a bit like that. You know, we've got our kind of nice sci-fi floating bridge here. It's got a little bit of sand dune support, I suppose. But yeah, there's a reason I did that. It was to level this out. So basically, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take... I could do this a few different ways. Probably the best way would be this, actually. Let's do this way. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a 4-meter slope like this. Oop. Of course, I need to put that in default mode. Then we'll put that like that. And then what I'll do... what could look good Maybe change these to steel as well. Or what I did do, I suppose, which I think looks good. Again, it's all opinion as well, so guess I could have put those in vertical mode or zoom mode or whatever. Yeah, I could have just done that. There we go. Got some nice support. See, you put a little bit of thought into it, and it could actually look decent. We want to put a little more thought into it. Go to walls, change that to steel, so it matches the... There you go. Doesn't look too bad. Decent size support. And stuff like that. There's another reason that I did this flat right here, though, is so that when I put down my block signals, because I like the way this looks, so put down my block signals, as I can definitely do that as well. I think the other thing I did with this was I did a foundation. I think I did a 2, well no, was it a 1 meter? No, it was a 2 meter, wasn't it? Was that a 2 meter? I might have done a 2 meter on top of these. I think I did a 2 meter on top of these. Something like that anyway. Like I said, the more pieces you add, the more complex the build becomes and the better it looks. So this kind of looks like it's kind of holding the whole centerpiece up, I suppose. And then next time I will show you guys the actual server that I was on. I'll show you the different type of builds and stuff that I've worked on, or you might see that sooner if I end up ever recording on there. Then we go to walls here, grab ourselves a 1 meter, turn to the zoom mode of course, and just run this like rails, like little handrails or whatever. Of course these ones are broken, they don't make a sound yet. Or they did, but they don't anymore. Then it sort of looks like the train tracks are kind of incorporated into it slightly. And plus the other reason the steel looks good is because it matches the track. But then you get this kind of look as well, which looks fairly nice. And then of course we'll go ahead and take our supports and do the rest of these real quick. Oh, and just a quick little build tip. I really didn't plan for this, but if you're ever running into a situation like this, you see I've got my triangle piece in here, but I cannot place... I might get lucky. Oh, there we go. Let's say I didn't get lucky, though. What I could do is, I know it's a 4 meter right there, so what I can do is I can zoop it into there. And then put on my piece there, just like that. So, yeah, just a little building tip there. Alright, and then you kind of end up with something like this. Not too bad if I do say so. It's kind of like almost reminds me of like a post-apocalyptic kind of future sci-fi-ish bridge that the sands have kind of taken over the last 100 years and are trying to build up to eventually completely get the sand all the way over it. So, yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Now we're kind of past the end of our episode here. Obviously that happened over 30 minutes ago, I'm sure. Something like that, because I'm probably not going to cut out a lot of this. A lot of it's going to stay in because a lot of it does have some information. So, yeah, it is what it is. Of course, we can also put up our signals. Actually, that's a bit too short of a block. Might do like every other one or so, something like that. Yeah, really cool stuff. Definitely if you put time into it to put underneath your rails and stuff like that, you can definitely get to building some really good rails and making them look nice and stuff like that too. When you are building rails though, unless you plan on never using it, definitely try to be aware of nodes that you're building over. so that you don't have to readjust your rails later on. But what I would definitely also recommend doing is when you are building rails, do like me, build large sections of rails for a decent path, and then go back and support it. Put in actual supports and stuff, whatever you want underneath there. Definitely do that. And you will thank yourself later in the long run for doing that, because if you end up changing direction earlier on, you don't have to spend an hour, 35, 40 minutes an hour, maybe even longer deleting. Let's say I didn't want this bridge here and I wanted it to go that way. Well, I already built all the bridge, but I wanted to go that way now. So now I got two choices. I could either leave this and try to make it work, or tear it all down and then move it, or put some of this in maybe a blueprint and make it easier on myself, stuff like that. There is a few other little tricks we're going to cover just quickly, and then we're going to go ahead and run the end of the episode. Or maybe not tricks, they're more of something to kind of keep in mind, I guess you could say. And we'll go over here for the example, because we've already got some structure built over here. We can just piggyback off of that. So one of the things you got to know about tracks, and when you're building them, is the longer the track, the better. As you can see here, we've got a nice long track. We've got from this distance to this distance. It's actually really nice, and it's relatively smooth. It's not too humpy, I guess you could say. It's a weird way of putting it, but yeah, it's not too crazy on the slope, and it's actually pretty darn smooth. This goes for corners as well, just so you're aware. But let's make it not so smooth, and we can do that by going much closer of a distance. So now, if we try to connect this, it's still relatively smooth. The elevation change is not that different. Hold on. Let's go over here. Should have put that up on 4 meter. There we go. So then let's connect this, just like that. Okay. It's a bit more of an elevation change, I would say. Or maybe we go even more extreme. It's hard to, I guess it's hard to show off in the desert here. For the different elevation change and stuff like that. But as you can see, this is pretty, I would say this is relatively extreme as far as the corner. We'll just focus on one. But yeah, as far as the corner goes, this is a little more extreme, but it's still not too bad. You could still get away with it without being too overcautious there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go much closer without changing elevation. But yeah, as you will see though, the shorter we go, so it was here, relatively, it's kind of smoothish. Now of course you could smooth it out with slopes and stuff like that too, so that's not too much of a deal. There we go. Now as we move closer, the slope, and especially since it's curving, the slope gets a little more extreme, and it just keeps getting more and more extreme. And this does it again, this does it with straights and stuff like that. A little more extreme until you can't, until it's too steep, essentially. So you can see, look how much more extreme that is compared to going out there. So like I said, the shorter the distance, the worse off you're going to be, especially when you're changing elevation constantly. And we actually did see that when we were doing the kind of sand dune ride, was I was building, if I build these short little sections like this, trying to follow this sand dune to get over to my bridge, essentially. See how curvy and bumpy this is? It's real crazy. But if I had gone longer slopes, I was going to try and I guess I can't put 2 rails on top of it. So, yeah, you just see how bumpy and curvy that is. But it's like strokes with a pencil or strokes with a paintbrush. Obviously, the longer the strokes, the better everything looks. Think of it that way. So yeah, now if I do this, it's still going to end up bumpy, but it's going to be a lot less, or it's going to be a lot less so. And also there's going to be a lot less curves and stuff. Just make sure I'm not sinking into the sand. Roughly there-ish. Oh, we sunk into the sand a little bit there, but my point will still stand. As you can see, look, we covered the same distance, we followed roughly the same path. Almost exactly the same path. We just took longer strokes. And even though it's still bumpy and still curvy, it's a lot less so than it was, 30 seconds ago or a minute ago. So that's where I'm saying, like, when you're building rail, especially if you're changing elevation, you're changing curves extremely quickly, like that sort of example. You want to take as long strokes as you can, the longest tracks you can get, while still achieving what you want to do without going super extreme, like going super extreme out of the way from what you're trying to do. Wow, it is very red over here all of a sudden. The shadows aren't too happy. They just all disappeared. They ran away as the sun goes down. Anyway. So yeah, just keep that in mind when you're doing that kind of stuff. The other thing is, one more other little trick here. We're going to go off of the... How hard is it to actually get a decent slope over the top of this? You know what? I'm going to go over here. We'll go over here. Get that connected over here. So let's say I'm just going to run this foundation. And we'll run it to there, and then over this way a bit, over that way a bit. I don't know, maybe go down a bit like this. Okay. So basically what I'll show you what I'm doing here in a second. So then we'll curve a bit like this-ish, maybe over here. Okay, there we go. That should work. Alright, let's say I want can my track even go there? It should. Let's say I want my track to go here. Let's go ahead and straighten it out. Just real quick. That's another little trick as well. Little trick to get you out of a bind, essentially. A bind I have been in a few times in my life playing this game and building tracks and stuff. Okay. Oops. Alright. So I've got my rail here. This is it. Let's just say this is exactly where I want my rail to go. And actually, let's make it even... Let's raise the sticks essentially even higher. Let's do that. Gotta straighten out my rail again. Oops. Okay. We'll drill it into your head. If you want your tracks to go where you want your tracks to go, in a very specific spot, build bracer rails and you will never be disappointed. I don't know. Well, you'll be disappointed with your build, but you won't be disappointed with how the tracks end up, I suppose. They do exactly what you want them to do. If you build bracer rails on the other end. Just depends on what you're trying to do. But yeah, let's say this is exactly how I want the track to go. Oops, and we get rid of all this, of course. And I'm over here, I'm building, I completely forget, or maybe I accidentally select it somehow without realizing it. I was deleting something, whatever. But let's say I do this. Whoops. Crap, right? And let's say I go even further and do this. And go, oh crap, I'm building a dual how am I gonna do that? I can't get this back to where it was. I mean, I could try to reasonably guess and go, okay, maybe it was this rotation, Let's see. Let's see if I can get this back here and try to save it. It was on a 2-meter slope, if I remember, so... And of course with the holding thing. Okay, that's not high enough. That's too high. Yeah, then we'll say that this was connected like this. That's exactly where I wanted it to connect, and that's exactly the slope I wanted, and stuff like that, and I can't change this. I'll just say we can't change this for any whatever reason. So yeah, 1 meter was it, and then it was 2-meter slope. Still not matching, okay. Not tall enough, another meter, another 2 meter. Dang it, this is messing up my slope. Now I can't fix that. So now now of course from here, I've got one of two choices. I can either delete this track and completely rebuild it, or as long as there was still a track remaining when the mistake was made, the track, say you're building a single track, then it'd be the only track. But if you're building a dual rail or multiples rails, whatever, let's say the one was still remaining, right? So given that this is connected to where you wanted it to go, of course, as well, right there, sure, why not? I'm going to delete this section. Now you can do this when the sections are connected, but it doesn't work all the time, so I'm just going to delete this to make sure it works. In order to get that slope back, what you can do is go over to architecture, go over to the small pillar support. You can do this with the big one, but do this with the small pillar support. It's easiest. You remember how they snap to the tracks? Go all the way to the end. And sometimes it will just snap there, but go all the way to the end to where it just appears, to where it's right up against the edge of the track. And then put that in there. Take a foundation, put the foundation, it goes exactly underneath that spot, because I was building on, because of where I was building on the middle of the foundation. This is going to work perfectly. It should work with all situations. Even if you weren't building to the middle of the foundation, it should still work just fine. It'll just change where it's placed on the foundation itself. Then we delete this one, and we go 2 meter. Now that's going to be a 1 meter, isn't it? Because it was a 2 meter lift. There we go. And look, that's exactly where it was. Let's see if I grab my other rail. We build our brace of track again, just like this, and just like that. And look, it's exactly the same again. See? Beautiful. And now my track's back. As long as the track wasn't fully deleted, you can use that trick to get you out of a jam. And I've been in that jam a few times on accident, deleting that or thinking I was done and went to change the track. And I was like, well, I want to start from this point, but I've already deleted all the foundational support. But now I want to change the track where it starts from here. And I wanted to go this way instead. But I had deleted... I deleted the foundation because I wanted to move it or whatever, that kind of stuff. That's a way you can do that. So that's a nice little tip, nice little trick, stuff like that. So that's pretty much all the knowledge I know. We are going to do a part 4. So do keep on the lookout for a part 4 on this. The part 4, what that's going to include is it's going to include blueprints. I don't have any blueprints on here. I was just showing you. Yeah, no blueprints. I don't have any. So I will be actually building a blueprint and showing you how to use those blueprints for your rails and stuff like that, and what you could actually do and the potentials for these blueprints since it came in Update 7. I won't show you how to use the blueprinter necessarily. I mean, I guess it'll kind of be given, but we're going to be using it specifically for rails. And the stuff we can do with the rails and stuff like that. There's not a whole lot of possibilities since rails take up a lot of room, but we could definitely do some cool things with it. So that's what we'll be doing next time. We will be doing a part 4 because we're already at probably roughly around 2 hours-ish if I had to guess, just based on the time I'm seeing here. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for that. So, yeah, hopefully you got a little more insight into it. If I did miss anything, or you would like me to cover something in more detail, or maybe you want me to do a different type of tutorial because you like how I do it, crazy and unorganized, as I usually do, let me know down in the comment section below. Like I said, if I miss anything, I don't mind a little bit of constructive criticism, so, go right ahead. And or something you would like me to cover in more detail, definitely go ahead. There are no stupid questions with me. I'm not one of those people that goes, "Oh, how dare you not know this?" you know, um, that kind of stuff. I'm not one of them type of people. You can definitely ask your question, and I will answer it to my best ability. And if I think it's significant enough, I will then cover it in the next episode. So we will see you here again for the next portion of this not tutorial. Next week. I think I'll do it on a Saturday again. I pushed this one to this Saturday because of the scheduling, how everything was working out. So I was like, okay, I'll push it to this Saturday because I have a free Saturday right now. Because I got bored with some other the other series that I was doing. But anyway, like I said, that is going to be it. So I do hope you enjoyed, and until next time, I guess it's a goodbye. Whee!